It's January 6th, 2012, here talking to Brian Hynes. The trial of originally 14 down to 4 people for speaking out against the NDAA and indefinite detention at Guantanamo. The trial, I guess, is over today. All 4 of you guys were found guilty by the jury.
Correct. 10 people had their charges dismissed, or one was acquitted. Before it went to the jury found all 4 of us guilty. The trial was named, we think alphabetically, by my name, Shakir Ami, which is the name of a detainee I took at a protest a couple of years ago. So he was picked up by U.S. forces in Afghanistan and was the 273rd person sent to Guantanamo. He arrived there in November of 2001. He's been there for 10 years.
So, Brian, we're talking here just prior to sentencing. Can you tell me, what happened at this trial?
Well, the trial was about violating a D.C. statute, disorderly conduct, disrupting Congress. So, under that, under the guidelines of the trial, we couldn't put Guantanamo on trial. But I feel like the judge was very fair, and the jury knew the substance of our protest, and we were able to refer to due process, and our strategy was to the lack of due process at Guantanamo, and our strategy was to present ourselves as creative lobbying, that we were appealing to our Congress under our First Amendment rights for redress of grievances. And we were able to make that argument, but ultimately the substance of the statute proscribes disruptions in the gallery, and our speaking out constituted a disruption, and all 4 of us were found guilty.
How do you feel about this?
I went in knowing that when I spoke out to Congress, I was risking arrest. I don't think it was a gross miscarriage of justice by any means. And I hope that we are like drips eroding granite, drips of water eroding granite, that not me personally, but all of our efforts are combining to bring a regime of justice. Things are getting better, not worse. We were there protesting because on that day in that house, because the NDAA, what we now know as the NDAA, was being portions of it were being debated at that time. At that time, it was only a further restriction on funding to transfer Guantanamo prisoners to the United States. The bill has become much worse, empowering the executive to arbitrarily detain U.S. citizens and redefining the scope of the battlefield to the entirety of the planet. So I think things are getting worse in the political sphere, but we have a good protest, and I'm going to go appeal to the judge that I have a right as a citizen. Not only the Constitution, I believe, I'm not a lawyer. The Constitution indicates that we have a right to appeal to government for redress of grievances, the First Amendment. People know that, but I would argue that we also have a right to live in a society that obeys its own laws. And Guantanamo is simply a violation of our own laws, and not only a violation of Obama's first executive order, but that too. And I have a right to live in a society that obeys its own rules. If there were rules that I disapproved of, maybe through a democratic process we could dicker over the rule. But once you have a rule, I feel you have to follow it. So I think I have an unenumerated right, a constitutional protection, to demand that my government follow its own rules and give justice to these men and women.